A year that's seen a reputation established, a blemish avenged, a crown retained, and a legend enshrined. Could be considered a storybook season. But today, on the picturesque shores of the Atlantic, the fate of the entire narrative is at stake. 60 minutes at Hard Rock Stadium will determine whether the fairy tale has one final chapter or whether it slips into oblivion like the sand on Lauderdale Beach, forever rendered a mere footnote to history. A juggernaut awaits, and the man at the helm will surely have some added motivation. The unstoppable force meets the immovable object as two of college football's most fabled programs battle for a shot at the national title. Who will punch their ticket to Santa Clara? Will it be the electrifying offense or the stout defense? The savant or the two-sport phenom? The legend or the prodigy? It's the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Oklahoma Sooners in a do-or-die showdown. This is the Capital One Orange Bowl from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And this is GamedayU.
Hard Rock Stadium, South Florida, host of the 2018 Capital One Orange Bowl between the Oklahoma Sooners and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And GamedayU is taking their talents to South Beach. Let's go.
We took them. They're here.
We are here.
Let's go.
I'm going to say this for the first time in a while, Josh. It's hot outside,
Yes.
and I love it.
The cold shows are a thing of the past.
Remember
We're
Bedlam
sweating
when we
now.
were like cuddled up, like just
You look like an
freezing
Eskimo.
Cold. Everyone
Yes.
called me an
Like an
Eskimo.
Eskimo.
I'm not an Eskimo right now. It's really nice outside.
It was ridiculously cold. I'm actually kind of sweating right now. It's a good problem to
bit, yeah,
have.
it's a little sweaty.
Good problem to have. Josh Callaway here with you. Tori Johnson, Collin Kennedy, Madeline Roberts. Guys, we made it. We're in South Florida.
We did make it.
Orange Bowl.
I can't believe that we're here.
Yeah.
You know, we keep talking every single week. It seems like, all right, last time for GamedayU. Thanks for watching. And the next thing you know, we're doing another show. But this is something that hasn't happened for GamedayU, basically in program history. And here we are outside of Hard Rock Stadium at the Orange Bowl. First of all, shout out to the media relations staff for getting us this set up. They turned the video board on for us and everything. Awesome backdrop for what's going to be an awesome game. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, testament to the OU football team. After they lost to Texas, we were kind of like, you know, maybe they'll be in one of those lesser bowls this year. Playoff kind of seemed maybe a little bit out of the picture, but they got some help from some losses. And, you know, they beat Texas, obviously avenged that loss, and now they're here.
Yeah, I remember being at TCU and you guys all in unison saying we're going to be in the playoff. And I was like, no. I didn't say that. I hope we are, but no, I don't think so. And here we are. So thank you, OU, for getting here so that we can be here and we can enjoy Florida.
Amazing run. So to recap, feels like forever ago now, but 4 weeks ago today, was it 4 weeks ago today? I don't know, December 1st.
It was a while ago.
4 weeks ago today, yeah, I was right.
Yeah, you're good.
Cowboys Stadium, Oklahoma, Texas rematch. Sooners got the win, got the revenge on Texas, won the Big 12 for a fourth consecutive year, 39-27. What stuck out from what was a crazy atmosphere? It was a lot of fun in Cowboys Stadium and a great game and a huge, huge win for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I guess for me, it was just kind of OU's composure in that game. I mean, like we mentioned, they obviously lost to Texas before. Kyler Murray had those two costly turnovers, and you could tell the atmosphere kind of got to him after the game. He was like, yeah, I mean, it was loud in there. It was just a tough atmosphere. And, you know, in AT&T Stadium, I would argue there's probably 70% Texas fans.
I was about to say, I get
It felt a little bit like a Texas home game. So, I mean, that's an even tougher environment. You know, you're in that huge stadium, probably the biggest game of Kyler Murray's life so far. And no turnovers for him. He looked really composed. The defense, I know we'll probably touch on that. They looked really composed. That Trey Brown corner blitz will live on in Sooner fans' memories forever. I mean, just the composure is what stood out to me.
You know who was not composed? Because they were violent, aggressive, and they made a man delete his Twitter account. OU's offensive line. Oh my goodness,
They
the big
cemented the
boys.
Offensive Line of the Year award right there in that game.
Winner of the Joe Moore Award. Congrats to them. They are so deserving of that award. I've been on this show several times talking about that unit specifically because to me they are the best position group in the entire nation, and I think that game solidified it. Put on the tape. Brecken Hager, after he basically trash-talked Oklahoma, was neutralized to a point where he was basically on the sidelines almost in tears. He could not stay off
He
the
was as
floor.
much of a non-factor as you could possibly be.
I agree 100%. Ben Powers played a great game. Creed Humphrey finally solidified himself, in my opinion, as the best offensive lineman on the team. Overall, I thought that they were exquisite, especially in a situation where, and you talked about the composure, they needed to be because the offense wasn't clicking early on. It was not. But the offensive line stayed true, they stayed humble, and they kept going, kept grinding, and eventually those big boys were able to wear down Texas. They just destroyed them, man. It was so much fun to watch the
Domination
tape.
in
Yeah.
the offensive line.
Well, something that was really exciting for me, like flipping to the other side of the ball, the defense, you know, they're the point of
defense played
conversation.
well.
Yes,
Wow.
they played
Woo!
so good. They held a team under
Confetti.
30 for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's really excited. They played well. They held them under 27, or they held them to 27. But Ellinger still went for 349 yards, and Collin Johnson broke a Big 12 record with 177 yards.
Yeah,
and
he was
the defense
a
was
problem.
still able to hold them down and keep them from scoring. And like you said, Trey Brown's sack and then Trey Norwood with the pick at the end, just to ice
Yeah,
it.
well,
I was
they
really
played.
proud.
Which one's better, Roy Williams, Trey Brown?
It's tough.
They're
Rollins had
both
this
up there.
I think that's a new debate.
Trey Brown, yeah. Let's get it going. Let's start the debate there. For a
I'm
little
still
bit.
sticking with the Superman, but that was a
I don't know.
heck
I
of a
was really
safety.
happy to see Ellinger go down, though.
We were-
that was happy.
We were at Orange Bowl Media Days the other day, and Curtis Bolton and Kenneth Murray both said that Texas game, best game they played all year, and they feel like they're playing the best obviously at the right time, end of the year, night and day from the first Texas game.
yeah, really.
Another thing that stuck out to me and probably to everybody is Kyler Murray's pretty good at football.
I'd agree.
He
Yeah.
played fantastic. Once again, you're running out of words for
Didn't
Kyler
he
Murray.
win some football award recently?
Yeah,
I can't remember
he
what it's
cemented
called, but I think he
winning
won something cool.
the Heisman Trophy.
Heisman, that's what it's called.
Seventh
Thank you,
Oklahoma
Josh.
Sooner to win the Heisman. Back-to-back, first time the school's had back-to-back quarterbacks win the award. Just, somewhat briefly, but how good is Kyler Murray? Like, it's so hard to put into words because we've said every word in the English language to try and describe him, but unbelievable. In 1 year to do what he's done, it's hard to find the words.
Yeah, I mean, great numbers overall. You know, over 4,000 passing yards, 71% completion percentage, 23 stolen bases. Wait, that's the other sport he plays.
Run it back.
Run it back. But yeah, and I think, an underrated thing, like you said, Josh, Baker Mayfield won the Heisman Trophy last year, was the number one overall pick. He had to replace him.
He had the biggest shoes to
I
fill.
can't fathom that kind of pressure on me or on anybody else. And he came in there cool, calm, and collected and had a fantastic season. Maybe even one-upping Baker Mayfield. We'll debate that a little bit later, but yeah, you're running out of words to describe.
And what's crazy is
this
he's
season
not,
had.
obviously he's not going to take it, but he has another year eligibility. He could have played another season,
Crazy.
which is frightening.
And I'll tell you what, we talked about the replacement and all the things he's been able to accomplish, but for me, I just keep touching on it. I'm still so impressed with what Kyler Murray has brought to the table from a leadership standpoint. We don't
Yes.
talk about it enough. Obviously, he's a quieter guy. He's no Baker Mayfield when it comes to leadership, but he has a different style, and you can tell that these guys respond to it. Before every drive, he goes up to all of his offensive linemen, quick knuckle touch to his running back, snaps the ball, and he's exquisite. But he just knows how to get his guys going, and that's something that Oklahoma has really relied on from the quarterback position, obviously for the 3 years that Baker Mayfield was there. They needed to have that presence still in the picture, and they had it with Kyler Murray stepping in.
Yeah, I agree with he's a different kind of leader. You know, he's more reserved, but he's still a leader. And I think that was the leader that this team needed, whereas last year's team, I think they needed a leader like Baker Mayfield. I don't think they need a Baker this year. They needed a Kyler, and he just came in at just the right point. There was no drop-off, and just won over everybody's hearts this year. I know all the Sooner fans that I know are always just like, oh my gosh, like Kyler's coming in, like, oh, we're gonna miss Baker so much. And I was one of them. And there has been absolutely no drop off. He's exceeded my expectations times a million, and I love
I
him.
said on one of the shows earlier this year that Kyler Murray has done the unthinkable and made Sooner fans not really miss Baker Mayfield or, you know, wish they still had him. You don't need him when you have Kyler Murray. It's unbelievable what he has done. Now you kind of look, we're talking about Baker. Is he Baker status? It's hard when you have just the 1 year. And he doesn't have the personality of Baker because, like you mentioned earlier, the team's composure. Put Kyler Murray next to composure in the dictionary because that guy, pressure coming at him, it doesn't matter. He just, you know, he's always same face, never gets too high or too low. He's the most composed guy out there. Is he Baker status? Where is he in terms of Baker comparison and just OU quarterbacks in general?
I'm gonna say he's not at Baker's level, and here's
It's
why.
hard in 1 year.
One
wrong
thing,
answer to this.
you're right. He's obviously a one and done kind of guy when it comes to starting for this team. Like we mentioned, he doesn't have that Baker Mayfield personality. He's not gonna plant the flag. He's not gonna, you know, have a back-to-back Big 12 championship shirt on. I mean, that's just not. And I think, you know, people love that. People love that kind of player on their team, especially, you know, when you can back it up on the field. They love that
Look
kind
at
of
Baker at
that
the
kind of
Browns.
I was gonna
trash
say,
talk,
when he's
that
on
kinda,
your
you
team,
know,
you love him, but when he's not, you
right,
hate him.
and Kyler's not that kind of guy. And I think also, you know, it's sad, but Oklahoma is not a baseball state. It's just not. I know the four of us love baseball, and I love talking to you guys about baseball, but, you know, most people in Oklahoma, they're not really into baseball too much. But obviously they love football and, you know, the Thunder. That's kind of where they lie. So I think the fact that, you know, Kyler probably isn't going to be in the NFL, and I mean, to him, football comes second. I think we've seen that throughout his career. So I think that kind of hurts him a little bit too. It's like, okay, he's going to go play baseball. He's going to go to California. You know, I think that does hurt a little bit in terms of that, just because people are like, we want that football guy. We want that guy to go #1 overall and, you know, turn around an NFL franchise like Baker Mayfield's done this year with the Browns. I think they kind of want that, and they kind of like that a little bit more than this guy who's going to, you know, had a phenomenal year, won the Heisman, but now he's going to play baseball.
I'm going to lob this up real quick. I think he's number 3 all-time Oklahoma quarterbacks. Number 3. I put him ahead of Jason White. I've officially done it from a talent perspective. I know we talk about the accomplishments left and right, but to me, you go Baker Mayfield #1, Sam Bradford #2, and I think Kyler Murray has slotted himself as the 3rd best quarterback to ever play in the Crimson and Cream.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in the backyard picking teams for a football team, I'll take Baker every time over Kyler. He knows, like, Kyler's obviously a winner too, but Baker just has that extra edge. He has that personality type Baker. You know, he's just like Baker, and he just controls the game with that, and he uses it to push everybody, and I'll take Baker.
Yeah, it's hard when he only has the one season.
But
Like I said, he
love Kyler.
has another one. If he had wanted it, he's
Yeah.
not going to take it, obviously. But it would be interesting to see if he did play another year, how that would change. It's insane that in 1 year you can
Yeah.
even get into the conversation. I think it's almost undebatable. He's at the very least #4 behind White, Bradford, and Mayfield. I agree with you. I think he has passed Jason White. He's won a Heisman.
Yeah.
And I guess the next question would be, how can Kyler catch them? If he beats Bama, what happens? If they win the whole thing, what happens? Where do you put him?
We'll see. I mean,
In our hearts forever. That's where you put him.
if Kyler wins a national title,
Let's just go for that. If they win the national title, what do you do with them? Baker didn't win a national title, neither did Sam Bradford.
I would be very tempted to put him up there at #1.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I mean,
If he beats Bama, I'll pick him instead.
I mean, as
Kyler.
much as Oklahoma fans love, you know, Heisman winners and love, you know, these record-setting quarterbacks, they love national championships. I mean, you could say most teams do, but I mean, and it's been a long time. They're really starved for one. So I think if Kyler wins one this year, I mean, how can you argue against putting him at #1 or #2? I mean, it's just tough to do.
It's tough. You go 1 year and you win a
Heisman
national
and a
title.
Natty.
Like I mentioned, Bradford didn't win one, Bayfield didn't win one, Jason White didn't win one. Pretty crazy. So we'll hop out for now. We'll come back. We'll be right back in here in South Florida outside Hard Rock Stadium. George Stoia from the OU Daily is going to join us. Tori Johnson will tap out. She'll come back in a little bit. Stick with us. It's going to be a fun show. Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Dolphins and the 2018 Capital One Orange Bowl. Beautiful setting here in South Florida. It's hot, it's humid, it's wonderful. It's a great place to play a football game, and I can't wait for this football game to get started. So let's get going to it. Can we get the kickoff already?
Hopefully. I mean, you did say it's hot and a little humid, but luckily we're dressed for the occasion in that red one.
Exactly.
Rocking
I want to
it
welcome
out.
in
Hawaiian.
George Stoia, sports writer of the OU Daily Extraordinaire, verified on Twitter. So we know we have a big guy here.
Yeah, I'm dressed to the occasion, as Collin said, wearing shorts, my Hawaiian shirt, got my flip-flops on. I'm sure my legs look great on television. This is my first time on television, so I'm a little nervous.
Honored.
I
Debut.
photobombed Tom Rinaldi last year at the college football playoff, so I was on television for like 2 seconds. This is the real thing. So.
There you go. So, obviously, a lot of stuff going on in college football since we last did a show. It's been 4 weeks, as I mentioned. Since then, arguably, maybe the biggest thing is Urban Meyer, head coach of Ohio State, stepping down. He's retiring. They promoted Ryan Day, trying to go maybe Lincoln Riley style, promote a coordinator. They named him the same day. It was Urban Meyer's retiring, Ryan Day's replacing him. What are some thoughts on what that means for Ohio State? Just the situation in general, college football. Does Urban Meyer coach again? Wherever you want to go with it. George, you can start.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people wanted to compare it to, the Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley handoff there that happened, 2 years ago. But I think they're completely different situations. You look at, what happened with Urban, in the preseason with the Zach Smith stuff, and you look at that, it's completely different. And I think Urban, the big question now is he going to coach again? Because we saw the same thing at Florida. He steps down. He blames, kind of health reasons. He's, just tired of this stuff. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think he's going to coach again? Because I think he's done. I think you watch, the Maryland game, a couple other Ohio State games. Yeah. He's bending over. He does not look healthy. I mean, do you guys think he's going to coach again?
I would say no, and I've heard that he's planning to become sort of an associate athletic director.
I did see that,
at Ohio State.
He's teaching a class.
Yeah, he's teaching a class.
I'm like, what
character.
Is it?
Character. So,
So ironic.
Not touching that.
Yeah. I heard someone say, I think Mangino's teaching a wellness and nutrition course too. So I don't think he's coaching anymore. I mean, you mentioned a good point. I think it's a cyst in his brain. Something is going on in there, but it gets to the point. He forgets things, and he said that there are points where it's so painful he has to buckle down. And if you're in that position, you can't continue to do something that puts you in that situation. So as much as I think Urban Meyer is a great coach, he's one of the winningest coaches in the history of college football. There are two things. Number one, health-wise, he can't get it done. And number two, probably character-wise, I don't think it's good for the sport if this guy continues to lead
people were surprised
young
he
men.
didn't get let go in the season or step down. Or
Before the season, really. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he coaches again personally, but I don't know if I can take anything he says for truth. I mean, he's saying all these things. He's, saying things at like Big Ten media days, and then like going back on it and saying the opposite thing like later on before the season started. So I was just like, I can't believe anything this guy is saying. And I mean, obviously he's dealing with some very real health issues, and it's hard to say, how big of a part is that playing? I don't know. I can't sit here and say, oh, he's just, lying. He doesn't ever forget things. Because, I mean, obviously he has issues. Obviously, he might be forgetting these things that he's claiming he has forgotten. But it's just tough. I mean, it's a tough situation. I'm honestly surprised that I personally thought that Ohio State should have fired him last year. And if anything, like, allowed him to quit, kind of step back, allow him to retire, kind of respectfully, I guess, as he already has. It's kind of weird to me that he, coached one more season and then he's gone. It's just a weird situation overall, but I mean, I do wish him well. I hope his health issues, get better.
Good hire of Ryan Day, though. I would say it's going to be a good hire of Ryan Day.
Personally, I think Urban, I kind of disagree. I kind of think he will coach again. I think he's only like in his 50s. He's not that old. I think he takes maybe a year or two off. He'll take something. I feel like.
Oh, ESPN will hire him.
He'll hire for like a season. He won't like it that much like last time.
I would say if he takes a job, it'll be in the NFL.
I could see that. I could see that
in the NFL.
For sure. So that's where I wanted to go, though. You got me there. Do we like Ryan Day? Keeping it in-house, even with their problems that they've had, do we like keeping it? Would you rather them kind of start it over?
Well, I mean, he coached, the first three games of the season or something?
Did.
And he did a really good job. Obviously, it's easy to recruit to Ohio State. He's a young guy. I think it's a good hire. I personally think they probably should have just gone out of the house and try and get somebody new, get some new blood in there, especially with all the stuff that's going on right now in that program. But it's probably a good hire. I think he's a good football coach. I think it's just too early to tell.
I really talked about this a lot with Josh early on in the season, and it seemed like as things started to progress and you felt like Urban Meyer's career would end at Ohio State, you thought they'd go to the outside hire, get a big name. I was thinking of Venables, a Matt Campbell, but I think that Ryan Day is going to step in and do a great job because the guys love him, they respect him. It's very similar to a Lincoln Riley situation, and he's proving it already. He got a big-time 5-star recruit, Zach Harrison, one of the best defensive ends in the country, to commit to him, even though he's been the head coach for just a couple of weeks. So he's already paying off, and I think it will continue to pay off in the future.
Yeah, I'm with George. It's a little sketchy since there has been so much like shady stuff going on in-house. So we're going to bring in, this guy. that he's been with our organization, but I think in terms of talent, I think he will be a good coach, you know, and maybe he'll turn the program around and kind of get rid of some of that shadiness. We'll have to see.
We've seen Ohio State assistants do well. I mean, Tom Herman, you know, so we'll see how he does. So shifting back to the the coach that's going to be in our game here, our coach here at the University of Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley. We always get his thoughts for the games each week. Let's get his thoughts on the season as a whole as we go through all the pressers the entire season, kind of a best of here for you. Check this out.
Haven't paid a whole lot of attention to what he did at A&M other than when I looked at him before we brought him here, but I'm happy with his progress. I think he's quite a bit different than he was then. You know, we got to make the improvements from week 1 to week 2, and we got to control that as a team, and that'll be our primary focus. No, we announced the deal about Rodney. You know, obviously a tough deal. I think we said in the statement, really all that we felt there. So he's playing the position at a high level right now. He's playing plenty good enough for us to win, and I think he's going to do nothing but get better. But I'm not surprised at all. To be 4-0, to make some of the progress that we've made, see some of these young guys starting to play the way that that we feel like they can, see the team starting to come together is very exciting for us. So we're learning, we're growing, and we're doing it while we're winning, and that's always a really good thing. So. Wasn't our best performance. We know that. We're going to own it. We don't back away from it. We're all a part of it. I felt like we needed a new voice. We needed just a little bit of a spark, and I thought that making the change was right. To have the preparation, the mentality that we really worked hard on throughout the bye week, throughout preparation for TCU, that's got to continue with this team. If a team can fight their way through this league, win the championship, have a great year along with it, then I think they're going to be in great shape. Well, that's why they call it Bedlam. Lived up to the name, lived up to the rivalry. You could put all those stats every which way you want. Go look up the Big 12 records in the last 4 years of teams and tell me which one you would rather be. Most years, most teams are going to have to win their conference, to get into the playoffs. So that's, I know that's not a surprise to anybody, but I want my team's focus right there, and if I'm going to do that, then I've got to make sure mine's there as well. It took a lot. It took a lot from these guys right here, all the other players and coaches in that room. When the rest of the world didn't believe in them, they believed in themselves, and that's why we're sitting here right now with that trophy right down here, and that's part of this program. That's the expectations of this program. What the great coaches and players before us built, and it's just still in every fiber of this program. You can feel it.
All right, so that was a season from the eyes of Lincoln Riley. Now what does the season mean for him? Obviously, ton of NFL rumors. Just get our thoughts about it, both for this offseason and going forward. Does Lincoln Riley coach the NFL next year? Does he ever? You can start, George.
Man, that's a tough question.
I know, it's loaded.
He said yesterday, I think at Media Day, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do in 10 years, but right now I love Oklahoma. And I take Lincoln for his word on that. He's been saying that all year. You guys have been at the press conferences every week. I mean, I think he truly means that he loves Oklahoma. I think he loves recruiting. He talks about recruiting all the time. I think he loves this age of players. I think he loves teaching the fundamentals of these kids. Now, will he be ever coaching in the NFL? I think eventually he will. I think OU is going to win a national title here in the next 5 years, I think. And I think after he does that, which is something that I think he wants to accomplish, I think maybe one day he goes, okay, I'll go coach the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't think he wants to coach for, Jerry Jones. I don't think he wants to coach Aaron Rodgers right now. I don't think he wants to go coach the Cleveland Browns even. I don't think he wants to go coach any of those places right now. But I think down the line, being a kid from West Texas, growing up around the Dallas Cowboys, why wouldn't you want to go coach that?
That job opens up.
It's the best job in football. And I don't think he wants it right now, again, but in a few years, if he's got a couple national titles under his belt, he's done everything he can at Oklahoma, why wouldn't you go coach the Dallas Cowboys?
As a lifelong Cowboys fan, I just thank you for all of those kind words, because that isn't always the case when you watch television these days. Okay, here's why I think Lincoln Riley is going to stick around for the next couple of years. And George kind of touched on it, but I'm going to take it a step further. This guy loves not only recruiting, being around the younger athlete, but he loves shaping young men into productive citizens and quality young players. This guy knows that football is more than just a game. And this guy, to me, I think more than any other coach in the country, is one of the best communicators I've ever seen. He's one of the best tacticians I've ever seen. He's so strategic in the way he approaches things. But most importantly, I think he just cares more than I think I've seen in a long time. This guy loves his players. He loves the people around him, and he loves Oklahoma University. And look, he's bringing in one of the best recruiting classes in the country right now. And it's going to get even better, I'm sure, as another signing period approaches pretty soon. If he continues to go, at this point, I think I agree with you. He's going to win a national title in 5 years. But how many national titles does it take to get him to the NFL? I would say probably 3, 4, 5, enough to fill up a hand. Should he, though, to me, hit the best route for him is to stay at OU for 30, 40 years and go down as another coaching legend.
I'm inclined to think that he will coach in the NFL one day. And, you know, part of me, it's funny, part of me is like, he's so young, it'll be a long time before he gets there.
Yeah.
But younger coaches are starting to become a trend in the NFL. I mean, Sean McVay comes to mind,
Yeah.
having a great season, you know, and he's pretty young. So I think he does stick around for a few more years, but it wouldn't surprise me if he gets kind of antsy and wants a new challenge. But just he loves recruiting, and he said he loves Oklahoma and over again. I don't know, he strikes me as the kind of guy who's like, I'm ready to move on, I'm ready to see, you know, what else I can accomplish. You know, he's confident in himself, he knows. I think, you know, whatever I take, whatever challenges I try to, you know, do, I'll be able to do it. So I can definitely see him in a few years being like, I'm ready to move on. Especially I've loved being the coach at the University of Oklahoma. I'm ready to see what else I can do.
Especially because not only is the young mind a priority these days in football, it's the offensive mind as well. Obviously, you mentioned Coach McVay, but also Coach Nagy at the Bears, what he's been able to do with that team. I think it just goes to show you, if you get that kind of guy, you can have success.
Yeah, I tend to think that Lincoln will go to the NFL eventually. He always kind of leaves the door open. He always says, I don't want to right now.
He shouldn't,
I don't have
though,
the itch
man.
now. So
He really should.
Let's say this: if they win the national championship this year, say they upset Alabama, which no one thinks they're going to do, then let's say they beat a Clemson team that's really good. Does it increase his chances of going to the NFL?
I think he's pretty solid staying now. I think this year. I don't think he'll leave this year. He seemed too hyped in that recruiting video where they got the safety.
I would say, if anything, it decreases it, because now he knows he can continuously win national titles here at OU for a little while.
I don't think he leaves after 1 or even 2 years, but you said
I think like
he'll stay for
5.
30 or 40. I would bet all my money
I think he
that
should.
doesn't happen.
Will he? No.
Okay,
He should,
okay.
though.
I would say
I
like
would be
5 years solid. After that, it
so
could be
shocked.
any year.
Give me 10.
Yeah.
Give me 10.
All right, so we'll hop out. George, before you hop out, do you want to give a quick score prediction for the game here in Orange Bowl?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a close game. I think OU covers. I think the spread's at like 14.5 right now.
Big spread.
I don't know the over/under. I have Alabama winning 48-41. I think it's going to be a lot like last year's Rose Bowl. I said Alabama, right? Alabama. Yeah, I said Alabama's going to win 48-41. I think OU finds success early. I think they struggle in the second half. Alabama makes adjustments. I think Tua plays well and he throws the ball well. And I think Alabama comes out on top.
Should be a great game. We know that. So, all right. Thanks, George. Appreciate it for stopping by. Tori will be back on the set now. Stick with us. We're going to break down all the New Year's 6 games and give our picks on every single game. And, of course, our OU Bama pick later on the show. Stick around. Back outside Hard Rock Stadium here in South Florida ahead of the 2018 Capital One Orange Bowl, Oklahoma Sooners, Alabama Crimson Tide. But that's just one of a really great slate of New Year's 6 games this year. Before we get our picks for OU Bama, let's get the other ones out there, give our thoughts about each one. We'll start with the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Michigan, Florida, a couple of teams that had, I don't want to say disappointing seasons, but especially Michigan thought they were a college football playoff team. Had the rug pulled out from under them by Ohio State there. What do we think? Does Michigan respond? Does Florida get the win? Where do we want to go? Michigan, Florida. Madeline, you
know, these two teams played in 2016 in the Gator Bowl, and Michigan won 41-7. And I think we see a repeat of that game. Not only is Michigan mad that Ohio State knocked them out of the college football playoff, but their defense is stellar. And yes, Dwayne Haskins kind of exploited them a little bit, but Felipe Franks is not Dwayne Haskins. Michigan wins big.
Michigan players are sitting out. Florida Gators got my man Dan Mullen. You know who I'm going with. The blue and orange all the way. Gators get it done. Michigan's overhyped. I've been on the show several times saying that. And the Gators, if they lock in, their defense can be just as good. I'm excited for this game. Gators get the win.
Okay, well, I'm not as excited as he is about this, but I'm also going with Florida. You know, they were number 1 in the SEC in takeaways. They also have a solid offense. You know, Frank's he's not that bad. They have 2 good running backs, Pirine and Scarlett, and so I think they're going to run all over Michigan, and Florida's going to win.
I'll make it a 2-2 split. I'm with Matt. I think Michigan wins the game pretty easily. I mean, Michigan, while I do think the defense is overrated, as we saw in the Ohio State game, that defense is still really nasty and really good, and Florida's not going to be able to score points. I don't know how they get on the board to even get into the 20s. I think Michigan's going to keep them low. I like Michigan. I like Michigan's team. I don't know. Shea Patterson's a pretty solid quarterback. I think Michigan will be okay. They'll win that game as long as they're motivated. You never know where motivations are going to lie in these
You would
things,
think
so.
that Michigan will be motivated.
You
but,
never know.
Maybe
Those
they're just
teams
so
that-
upset that they're just like,
Those
we
teams
don't
that
care,
just missed the
you know?
playoff can be the
Right.
dangerous ones, and that's what makes these games hard to pick sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'll go Michigan. So 2-2 split on that one. Next one, Fiesta Bowl. This one's very, very interesting. The UCF Knights. I believe number 8 in the rankings, undefeated, 25-game win streak. Do they keep it going to beat an SEC team again when they take on the LSU Tigers and Coach Ed Orgeron?
How many points were they down to Memphis when they came back and won? 16 or 17?
17.
In the AAC championship. I mean, yeah, they won't have Milton, but I think they beat LSU. LSU has shown that they're not really that good of a football team. I mean, their losses were pretty good losses in terms of, their opponents. But I think they'll be crowning themselves champions again this year after winning.
Give me the Tigers. I think after Ed Orgeron's press conference where he decided to scream at his
You
players
want to do a Coach O
mid-press
impression?
conference.
I feel like you got a good one. Come on.
I might try one later on in the show, but I don't have one prepared currently. But let me tell you something. I think LSU's defense is very, very good, and if Joe Burrow can play up to his full potential, Tigers have a massive advantage at quarterback. Give me the LSU Tigers to win.
I'm going UCF solely because I want them to win. I want them to win. They've won 25 in a row. I want to see that keep going. It's so cool. It's almost funny to me. It's like they're never going to be in playoff contention because of their schedule, and they keep winning though. So I think they kind of use that as fuel. And then they also, I feel like in that game that you were talking about, the ACC championship, they used that Milton injury kind of as a push too. And that was a really cool game to see. So I'm going UCF.
Yeah, I'll make it a 2-2 split again. I'm gonna go LSU. Last year, I genuinely think UCF only beat Auburn because Auburn did not show up. They didn't really want to be there. It's not an excuse for losing a game, but I think that's why they lost that game. No way LSU is not motivated and they don't want to beat UCF, who runs their mouth more than any school team
They won the
in
Natty.
the country. No, they did not. Play somebody. Florida was like, hey, we can play next year, and they're like, nah, we're good. What are you doing?
They're
I
afraid of the swamp.
don't know if the Tigers defense can keep up with their the UCF's fast tempoed offense. They're so fast.
Yeah, they look real fast
When
against
you're watching,
Memphis
you
and
can't even
Temple.
keep up with the plays. They're just so fast.
Yeah, their best win is Pittsburgh. That's all I'm going to say about
Their best
that.
win
out
is
Mr.
about to be
Heupel, though.
LSU.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Mr. Hype will get it
We'll see if he
done.
can keep it going when Scott Frost's players are out of there.
Yeah.
LSU should blow them out in this game, especially without Mackenzie Milton.
They won't.
So I don't know. We'll see. Next one. This is a weird game. It's a couple of conference champions, Power 5 champions. Ohio State, Washington in the Rose Bowl. Obviously, OU was in the Rose Bowl a year ago. So these are two teams that, again, kind of Michigan, Florida. Not disappointing years. Ohio State probably, but they're not in the playoff. They won their conferences. What do we think? This is kind of a weird game. I really don't know how to feel about this one. Ohio State and Michigan, and Washington.
It's definitely weird. I think Washington is the big underdog in this game, especially after what Ohio State did to Michigan. And I think they'll be motivated too because they got left out of the playoff, and I don't know if this matters to them, but I mean the committee did put Georgia above them, which doesn't matter. They're 5 and 6, but
That
they might be like,
surprised me.
what?
surprised me.
Not that, like I said, not that it matters. But yeah, I think I'm going to pick Washington in this one. Their defense is really good. I mean, their secondary specifically, they only give up, 15.5 points per game, I think, this season. One of the best defenses, of course, Michigan's is number 1, or was number 1 at least before they played Ohio State. We saw what happened. But yeah, I think Washington gets it done. Miles Gaskin, I think, will have a big game on the ground. Give me Washington by a little bit.
Give me Dwayne Haskins to torch up that secondary. I got to tell you now that Mr. Herbert of Oregon
I was just about to say that.
is not going to the NFL draft. I think Mr. Haskins is now officially the top pro prospect at the quarterback position. I've been a big Dwayne fan for a long time, and I think this game is going to be a nice way to send him out on a high note. So give me the Buckeyes to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. Also sending out Urban Meyer too, but I'm going to go Ohio State as well. In Dwayne Haskins' last 2 appearances, he has had like 11 touchdowns and I think 895 yards. So he's like on his game
pretty
right
good.
now. Yeah, so I agree. I think he's just going to demolish them. I think that they're going to win.
Yeah, I'm not going to do the 2-2 split this time. I'm going to go Ohio State here pretty big. Urban Meyer's
Good, I'll
last
be the
game.
only one that's right.
Urban
fine.
Meyer's last game. They're disappointed they didn't make the playoff. Haskins got no Heisman love. He might as well not even been there
I
in
know.
New York. He's
Yeah,
going to
I
want to
feel
play
bad
well.
for him.
I watched that Pac-12 championship game. Washington, if it wasn't for an extraordinarily lucky pick 6, they don't beat Utah. They're not even in the game. Yeah, give me Ohio State.
I wanted to see Utah in that game.
Give me
but
Ohio
didn't
State
happen.
big in this one. I've also never been a big Jake Browning guy. I've always thought
He's weird. I'm just going off that one.
Ever since that Bama game where Washington had a shot in that game and Jake Browning did nothing, and that's why they lost, I've kind of had a sour note on Jake Browning. All right, next one. It's kind of the OU Alabama light version. Texas and Georgia, the two runner-ups in the Big 12 and the SEC. Obviously, Texas is going to be massive underdogs in this one. I think a lot of people think Georgia is a top 2 or 3 team. Texas-Georgia, does Texas pull it off or does Georgia win?
I think Texas upsets Georgia. I mean, we talk about motivation a lot, you know, whether that plays a big part of it. I don't know if Georgia's going to be motivated. You might think, you know, we got left out. We want to prove that we're really good. But they're like, we're playing Texas. Like, who cares? We're a lot better team than them. I mean, it's tough because, you know, this Georgia defense does not give up a lot of big plays. They're really good at not doing that. But, I mean, Sam Ehlinger, I think he's proved that he's a pretty good quarterback. I know you disagree. You think he's not very good at all. But, I mean, he's got Collin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey that make him look really good. So I think we see Texas win in a close one.
The following hand gesture is PG-13 rated. Viewer discretion is advised. Georgia Bulldogs get the job done. I love offending the viewers right now. Let me tell you something. Jake Fromm, ladies and gentlemen, obviously how quality of a passer he is has been in question, but against Alabama, I don't think we're talking about it enough. He was unbelievable in the pocket against the Crimson Tide. Almost won him the game as a passer. You could see similar success. I really think his confidence is at a new level. I really like where this Georgia team is at. Obviously, they'll always have the defense, but with Jake Fromm playing the way that he is, Bulldogs get the win.
I do think Jake Fromm is very underrated.
Yes,
very
I
underrated.
Very good quarterback. Young guy, too. Still ways to go.
Another year.
Yeah, I'm going at Georgia as well. We know, like, these two teams, it's going to be a physical game, but I don't think that Texas's defense is going to be able to handle Jake Fromm, who is playing great. I mean, Georgia's already shown like they can handle good defenses, you know, Florida, Kentucky. And like you said, Jake Fromm had no problem moving the ball on Alabama either. So Jalen Hurts just came in and saved the day for them. But I'm going Georgia.
I'm back on the 2-2 split. I'm going Texas here.
I actually would like to see Texas win, though.
I don't really have any great reasoning. It just kind of feels like the OU-Bama Sugar Bowl. You know, Texas is trying to get back to where they were, which is just like OU was. Bama just missed out on playing for the national title, just like Georgia. And it's in the same bowl, the Sugar Bowl. It just feels so much the same. And I kind of feel like Georgia's not going to really show up. They're going to think they're going to truck Texas. And Texas, we all know they have the talent. They have great recruiting classes every single year. I think their talent plays up playing against Georgia. And they pull it off. I think they pull off the stunner.
I was going to mention that. It feels very similar to
It feels a lot like it. I think Texas pulls off the stunner and they get a top 5 preseason ranking next year.
I hope they do. Because, you know, there's this huge SEC, Big
12
argument. And I would love to see Texas win, actually, just so they can say, like, okay, this Big 12 team beat this really good SEC team and we can move on from this.
I mean, Georgia's had everybody telling how great they are for 4 weeks and that they should have been playing for the title.
Yeah,
so
your dude Kirk Herbstreit.
I know, I love him, but that was a bad take. That was a bad take. We'll close it out with, obviously, the other humongous game, the biggest game that's not the one that we're at here for OU and Alabama. Clemson, Notre Dame, 2 versus 3, a spot in the national title on the line. I think we all think Clemson is very, 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 very good. They might be better than Alabama. A lot of us believe. Notre Dame kind of squeaked in all year. They're undefeated, though. And Ian Book's playing really well.
So
Clemson, Notre Dame. Does Notre Dame pull off what would be a pretty big upset, or does Clemson get it done?
Ever since college football went to this 4-game playoff, we've seen some embarrassing, you know, showings from some teams. But I think that will all be forgotten after Notre Dame gets absolutely demolished by Clemson. Clemson is the much better team in pretty much every aspect of football. This one's not going to be close. I'm sorry, Notre Dame. I already feel bad for them.
Notre Dame's a Catholic school. They're going to need plenty of prayers because they're going to get absolutely destroyed.
Need to bring Sister Jean, that's what her name is. Bring Sister Jean to the game with them.
Give me
Maybe she'll give us a
Clemson
good look.
big time over the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I'm going Clemson too. I'm honestly just so annoyed with Notre Dame at this point. Like, you should not be in the playoff. You're overrated, and I'm ready to see you go home. I'm not going to feel sorry for them at all. I'm not saying any prayers for them.
Yeah.
I want them to leave. Clemson wins.
I tried to talk myself into Notre Dame to just be devil's advocate, and I can't. It's hard. Clemson looks so great, maybe the best team in the country. Notre Dame,
I think Clemson is
Ball
the
State was close, Vanderbilt was close, Pittsburgh, they just squeaked out. USC, they squeaked out all year. Maybe they surprised us, but man, on paper, definitely not. So, well, we'll hop out one more time here when we come back. The good stuff, final score, call-outs, picks, and all our final thoughts on Oklahoma and Alabama. Stick around for the final piece of the show here. You've been waiting for it all show. Here we go.
Woo!
OU Bama, one of the biggest college football games in, I think, at least several years here. The tradition, the programs, the coaches, the quarterbacks, the players on both teams in South Florida for a spot for the national title. As big as it gets, really, in this sport. So here we go. OU Alabama, what are some things we're watching for? Give us some keys here.
My key player is Trevor Knight. If they can get him back
Is he here?
to play
Because if he's
quarterback,
here, OU by 100.
instead of
I can't
Kyler Murray,
inside out.
OU will
He's not
demolish
here.
Alabama. Key player, Trevor Knight, OU needs you.
Okay. Well,
It's my key to the game.
that is an interesting take, but we know that I like to break down opposing teams, and we've come up with a little segment here on GamedayU that has taken off, ladies and gentlemen. It's
I
time
was about to say,
for
we came
Collin's
up with this?
Key Players, brought to you by sponsor still pending. I still don't have one yet. I'm pretty upset about that, but
The
look
Orange
at this
Bowl.
amazing
I was gonna say,
graphic.
very orange
Shout out
sponsor.
Spencer Forsyth and the rest of our production crew. I mean, we've got an unbelievable team. Curt Watson, Parker Thune, and now it's time. Let's go into it, starting with the offensive key player.
This is quite an intro.
Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, the Biletnikoff Award winner, one of the best in the country, and I've said it a lot of times. This guy is one of the best after the catch receivers I've seen in a long time. You see the stat line here for him. He is unbelievably talented, and he makes Tua even better than he is, which, by the way, Tua is pretty good. If he can get the ball out to Jerry Jeudy, and Jerry Jeudy can make a fool out of OU secondary members, it's going to be a long day for him. Of course, we've seen Oklahoma struggle with talented receivers this season, and Jerry Jeudy is just another one. Of course, he takes home the award for the best receiver in the country. Next up, on the defensive side, ladies and gentlemen, we're going with Dylan Moses. You may not know him, but you should, because this guy's just a sophomore. He came out as one of the most highly ranked prospects in the country. Came out as an athlete because he was playing linebacker, running back, wide receiver, whatever he wanted to do. He solidified himself as one of the best inside backers in the country, 70-plus tackles this year, leading the Crimson Tide in that statistic. In this game, he will be tasked with spying Kyler Murray. In this game, he will be tasked with shutting down the run game of Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon. If he succeeds in doing so, plus he has a pretty nice running mate in Mack Wilson, if Dylan Moses is a big-time impact player for the Crimson Tide, it'll be a long day for Oklahoma's offense. Collin's Key Players, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a fun year. I don't know if this is the last one. I sure hope not, because we just got that awesome graphic. Man, I feel good right now. Collin's Key Players taking off.
South
All right.
Florida edition.
And now it lands and crashes.
Let
Probably.
me follow up on that. For me, this game, I'm worried about a couple things, because I've seen, whenever we came into the Texas Tech game and whenever we were playing in the Red River Showdown, Kyler, I don't know, it seemed like maybe the pressure, he wasn't as composed, kind of got to him. I'm a little worried, like at the beginning, if he's going to be shaky or not. I'm worried about how healthy Marquise Brown really is. We've been seeing these guys in practice the last couple days, but I'm just a little bit anxious about it. So I'm really looking out for them. And then another thing, it's not worried me as much as it did just kind of tick me off, is we were at Media Day and Alabama came in first, and all those guys, Nick Saban, they just had so much confidence. They
They're
were
very
so
confident.
cocky, and it was just so irritating to me. And we were talking about it, and Matt was like, I love it. I hope they just keep doing it. I can't wait for Saturday. And it's just like them coming in that confident is either going to be a good thing for them, or it's going to come and bite them in the butt. So I don't know. I hope it goes the first way I just said, but those are my kind of things that I'm looking out for.
Yeah.
To
No,
me, it's clear that they don't think. It makes them mad that OU thinks that they deserve to be on the field with them, because they think that we're so much better. We shouldn't even have to play you. That's kind of the attitude I felt
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
from a
Yeah,
lot of
we
the
were-
players.
They're definitely very, very confident. We saw what Quentin Williams said about Kyler Murray. He started to basically say he's not what everybody says he is, and then he kind of cut himself off, but
That might come
Bold-
back to
bold
bite him.
statement.
I hope it
that
does.
might be
And we were talking, it was
embarrassing
Mack
for him.
Wilson, right? We were talking to Mack Wilson, and we were just asking him, how are you guys preparing for Kyler, this fast-paced offense? How are you going to play against this offense? And he just shut us down and was basically like, I'm not worried about this. We've played good offenses. We've played fast offenses. I've played good offenses before. I'm not worried about it. I was just like, the
yeah,
best
maybe,
offense in the
yeah.
country. You haven't played them yet. Stop
maybe
undermining
overconfidence
them.
bites them. We'll have to see.
I
For
hope
me, I'll
so.
just make it real quick. But the lines, offensive line, defensive line, Quentin Williams versus OU offensive line.
Yeah.
That's going to be just marvelous.
Be fun.
So I have a camera on that the whole time. That's going to be great. A lot of body down there colliding. So let's do it. Our favorite parts. call-outs and all that fun stuff. Let's start with final word. Madeline, your final word.
I'm always
possibly.
interested in this.
So I've had a lot of big words this year. Colin likes to joke I'm like a walking thesaurus or whatever, you know.
I'm wondering which part of the dictionary you went to for this one.
I went to the simple part of the dictionary. I picked a simpler word.
Where
My
is
word
that?
is destiny. This Oklahoma team, you know, they went to the playoff a few years ago, got demolished by Clemson. They went last year and, you know, had a close game, should have beat Georgia, but just kind of fell apart there at the end. So it kind of feels like destiny that they get the win against this Alabama team that, you know, they beat a few years back in a less important game, but they still beat them. That was the last time these two teams met. So it feels like destiny a little bit. You know, you got Kyler Murray when Baker Mayfield, you know, couldn't quite get the job done. Let's see what happens.
My final word might even go a little bit off of that, but I think it could be part of their destiny. It needs to be if they want to belong. My final word is belong, and I'll tell you why. For a while now, I don't think we talk about it enough. College football is being run by two programs. Alabama is at the king of the hill, and Clemson's right there. Outside of that, you can't really make an argument for another program that has been consistently towards the top. Oklahoma's been starting to get there. Georgia is too. But I gotta tell you, at some point, Oklahoma is gonna have to start breaking through the ceiling. Alabama and Clemson have been too dominant for too long, and eventually, in this game specifically, this could be an opportunity for them to prove that they belong in the upper echelon of college football. Show that you belong to be the top three in the top of college football.
I feel like our words are like so motivating and like philosophical. My word is overcome. OU has a lot to overcome in this game, and they've had to overcome a lot just on their way to Saturday. You know, there's been a lot of people undermining them. There's been a lot of debate whether they should be on the field with Alabama. They're going to have to overcome injury. Marquise Brown isn't 100. Kyler Murray said he was under the weather the other day. They're going to have to overcome their own defensive struggles playing against Alabama's offense. And then they're going to have to overcome Alabama's defense. So they have a lot to overcome in this game. And so that's why I chose that word.
The same theme for me. I'm going to go with dethrone. This is a chance, you know, Nick Saban's getting older. This is a chance for Lincoln Riley to kind of assert himself as the next guy, the face of the sport, and OU to assert themselves as top dog program. They're kind of disrespecting Oklahoma at this Orange Bowl here, making it seem like Bama's here and Oklahoma's here. Oklahoma win, and it gets right there. The recruiting class Oklahoma's coming in. Lincoln Riley, back-to-back Heismans. Oklahoma has a chance to reassert themselves at the top of the college football food chain and be once again maybe the top dog program in the sport with a win here at the Orange Bowl. Dethrone is my thing. Overthrow King Nick Saban there and the Crimson Tide.
I'd love to see it.
Let's go call out now. Madeline, go for it.
I'm going to call out the man himself, Kyler Murray. We've talked about him a lot because there's a lot to talk about. He just won the Heisman. Tua is not happy. Alabama is not happy. That added even more fuel to their fire. They want to make Kyler Murray look bad. That defense is hungry to get to him. But I think he can have the best game he has ever had and the biggest game he has ever played in. And like we mentioned earlier, if he gets a win in that game and then, you know, potentially wins in California to get OU's 8th national championship, he might be, you know, the best quarterback of all time to ever lace up for the Crimson and Cream. So, Kyler Murray.
My call out is a guy that I'm a huge fan of, and I think that this game is one of the most determining games of his entire career, both in college and in the pros. My call out is Creed Humphrey, and I'll tell you why. In this season, to me, he solidified himself as the best one-on-one blocker on that offensive line. To me, he might be the best offensive lineman in that group. But he's going up against a guy named Quinnen Williams. If you don't know who that is, he is one of the best players in all of college football. Lincoln Riley has said it several times. He's one of the best players he's ever seen and coached against. Well, Creed Humphrey's going up against him. And the redshirt freshman, while he's been outstanding this year, he has quite the tall task ahead of him. Quinnen Williams is an unbelievable player. How does Creed Humphrey handle that matchup? If he handles it well, it could just decide the game.
Okay, well, my call out, oh goodness, excuse me. My call out is Trey Sermon. So we talked to him this week. He said he feels 100% for the first time since the TCU game. And if you guys remember, within that time, he played against Tech and had 206 yards. And from there, it's just like been very sporadic how he's played. You know, he's had games where he's gotten 6 yards, 11 yards, 25, or he'd get 100 here. You know, it's been just kind of sporadic. And we were talking to Kirk Herbstreit actually yesterday, and he just kind of echoed what I was thinking. And he said, you know, everybody wants to talk about the quarterbacks, everyone wants to talk about the receivers and the offense, but this is going to come down to the run game. Like everybody needs to get excited about the running game. You know, if we're running the ball a lot, we're not playing from behind. And if Trey Sermon racks up a lot of yards like we did against Tech, like I don't see how Bama could keep up with us, like how they could score with us. So my call out is Trey Sermon. He's going to lace him up, feeling 100% healthy, so hopefully he can get it done.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Marquise Brown. I'll stick on the offense. Alabama's made it very clear that they are honing in on Marquise Brown. In practice, they had scout team receivers wearing number 5 jerseys to mimic being Marquise Brown. I don't know if anybody impacts the offense outside of Kyler Murray more than Marquise Brown. He makes the offense so much more dynamic. He's such a huge deep threat. He is the guy. They were talking about SEC speed. Marquise Brown laughs at SEC speed. He is the fastest player maybe in the entire sport. He is so hugely important. And you know, beginning of this season, he had the Blitnikoff jersey on. We all saw it. He had the aspirations. The guy when the Blitnikoff is across the field, Jerry Jeudy. He's got a one-on-one matchup against the guy who won the award that he wanted to win. Here's his chance to prove to himself and the country that he is the best receiver in college football and that he should have been more heavily considered for that award. And he's just so important to the offense, in my opinion. So, close it out. Picks. Who wins the ball game? Does OU get to play for the national title, or is it going to be Alabama once again against Clemson, according to us?
You know, this is going to be a crazy game. I think it's going to be a close game. You know, you got OU's just absolutely record-breaking offense, but Alabama's really good defense. Defense wins championships. I'm picking Alabama in this game. Like George Stoia mentioned earlier on set, he thinks it's going to be similar to Georgia. I do as well. I think OU may have a lead after the first half, but Alabama, they've had a couple first halves this year where they didn't look good, and then the second half they just came out guns blazing, and it was like, why was this ever even a question? So 42-41, Alabama, they get it done in a close one. Sooners fans' hearts are broken.
You mentioned the defense, but I'll go to the offense. Alabama has one of the most explosive offenses that they've had potentially in program history. That's why I've got 48-38 your final score. I think Tua is going to absolutely torch OU secondary. Jerry Jeudy, an unbelievable talent, and they have so many other weapons on that offense. It'll be hard to overcome for the Sooners.
Wow. I am ashamed right now. But my final score is 42-35. I've got OU winning by a touchdown. Let me take you back to 2014. Trevor Knight, the Sugar Bowl. We annihilated Alabama, and I have complete belief in Sooner magic. I think Lincoln Riley still has some of Bob Stoops' Sooner magic, and I think he's sprinkling it on the field right now, and OU's going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go 52-45 Oklahoma. Why not? I mean, we'll see what happens. I think last year,
confident.
The big reason why OU lost to Georgia, in my opinion, was when they got the lead, they went conservative, and they let Georgia get back in the game. I think Lincoln Riley learned his lesson. Yeah. That will not happen again. They'll get out, they'll get the lead, and they will coast, and they'll hold on, and they'll go play Clemson for the national title. So that's all we got. Great show here from South Florida. It was a lot of fun. Stick tuned to OUnightly.com. Stick with us. Follow all of us on Twitter. Find us and follow us and keep up with all our coverage. Hopefully we have a show for you from California. You never know. So thank you for watching so much from South Florida.